The envelope arrived on a Tuesday. Jasmine Blake stood in the narrow hallway of her Brooklyn apartment, still wearing her hospital scrubs, holding the thick cream paper like it might bite. Her name was written across the front in elegant script. No return address, just her name, and beneath it, a single word in Korean characters she couldn't read. She didn't need to read it. She knew what it meant. Payment. Inside, her younger brother Trevor sat at their small kitchen table, his leg bouncing with nervous energy. At 19, he still had the soft face of the boy she'd raised after their parents died, but his eyes held something darker now, something that made her stomach turn. Jasmine, I can explain. How much? Her voice was steady. Years of nursing in the ER had taught her to stay calm when everything inside screamed. 200,000. The number hung in the air like smoke. She set down her bag slowly, methodically, the way she did when a trauma patient came in, and she needed to think clearly. You gambled $200,000. Not a question. I thought I could win it back. I thought, his voice cracked. The men I borrowed from, they're not like regular loan sharks. They're connected to something bigger, something Korean. Sis, they showed me pictures of what they do to people who don't pay. Jasmine closed her eyes. She thought of their parents, immigrant from Jamaica who'd worked themselves to death so their children could have better lives. She thought of every double shift she'd pulled to put Trevor through college. Every sacrifice. When do they want it? They don't want money anymore. Trevor's hands trembled as he pushed a second envelope across the table. They want you. The address led to a building in Midtown that didn't belong on any map Jasmine could find. Glass and steel, anonymous except for a small bronze plate near the entrance with Korean characters she was starting to see everywhere now. The lobby was empty except for a young woman in a pristine suit who smiled without warmth and gestured toward a private elevator. No words, just a smile and a gesture, and the feeling that Jasmine was walking into a trap she couldn't see yet. The elevator climbed silently. 20 floors. 30. 40. When the doors opened, she stepped into another world. The penthouse stretched before her like a movie set. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan. Furniture that probably cost more than her annual salary. Art that belonged in museums. Everything white and chrome and perfect. Sterile. Miss Blake. The voice came from behind her, and Jasmine turned. He stood by the windows with his back to the light. So for a moment he was just a silhouette, tall, broad-shouldered, perfectly still. Then he moved forward, and the light caught his face. Kang Ji-hoon was younger than she expected. Early 30s, maybe, with sharp features and darker eyes that studied her with the same clinical precision she used on patients. He wore an immaculate black suit and no tie, and moved with the controlled grace of someone who'd never been denied anything in his life. "Do you know who I am?" he asked in perfect English. "No." A slight smile touched his mouth. "Good. That means you're honest or foolish. I haven't decided which yet." He circled her slowly, and Jasmine forced herself to stand still to meet his eyes when he came back around. She'd dealt with plenty of men who thought they could intimidate her, but something about Ji-hoon was different. He didn't posture or threaten. He simply was dangerous. The way of Blade was dangerous. No effort required. "Your brother owes money to people who work for me," he continued. "But I'm not interested in money." "Then what do you want?" "You." He said it simply, like he was ordering coffee. "For 1 year, you will be my wife." The room tilted. "Excuse me?" "Marriage. Legal and binding. You'll live here, appear at my side when required, and play the role of devoted spouse. In exchange, your brother's debt is erased, and he stays alive." Jasmine's nurse brain cataloged her physical reactions. Racing pulse, shallow breathing, cold hands. Shock, but not quite panic. "Not yet. This is insane. This is business." June moved to a bar cart and poured 2 glasses of something amber. He offered her one. She didn't take it. "I need a wife for reasons that don't concern you. You need your brother to survive. The solution is elegant. I could go to the police. You could..." He sipped his drink, watching her over the rim. "But your brother signed contracts with very specific language, and the men he borrowed from have very talented lawyers. You'd bury him trying to save him. The truth of it settled into her bones. She'd known, the moment she'd opened that first envelope, that this was a trap with no exits. But hearing it spoken aloud made it real. Why me? Her voice came out steadier than she felt. There are thousands of women in this city who'd marry you for free. Something flickered in Ji-hoon's expression. Amusement, maybe, or approval. Most women in this city want something from me. Money, status, access. You're here because you have to be, which means you won't develop inconvenient feelings or expectations. You'll play your part and leave. Clean. You want a wife who hates you. I want a wife who won't fall in love with me. He set down his glass and produced a document from inside his jacket. 1 year. You maintain appearances, attend necessary events, live here. You'll have your own room, your own space. I'm not interested in forcing anything beyond the public performance. Jasmine stared at the contract. 50 pages, at least. Legal language she'd need a lawyer to decode. But she didn't have time for lawyers, and they both knew it. What happens after the year? Divorce. Quiet and clean. You walk away with enough money to start over anywhere you want. Your brother stays safe. And if I refuse? Ji-hoon's smile didn't reach his eyes. Then I give your brother back to the men he borrowed from, and you can visit him in the hospital, if he survives. The cruelty of it was almost refreshing. No pretense, no games. Just pure transactional ruthlessness. Jasmine thought of Trevor's frightened face, thought of their parents' graves in Queens, thought of every choice that had led to this moment. I need to see him first, she said quietly. My brother. I need to make sure he's safe before I sign anything. Ji-hoon studied her for a long moment. Then he pulled out his phone, tapped something, and turned the screen toward her. Live video. Trevor what looked like a hotel room, unharmed but visibly shaken. 2 large men standing guard by the door. He's being held in comfort until you decide, Ji-hoon said. I'm not a monster, Miss Blake. I'm just a man who needs something and has the resources to get it. What kind of events? Jasmine heard herself ask. Her voice sounded far away. Galas, business dinners, meetings with family. You'll need to learn some Korean, some customs. But you're clearly intelligent. You'll adapt. She looked at him, really looked, tried to see past the expensive suit and cold eyes to whatever lived underneath. But Ji-hoon's face revealed nothing. He might as well have been carved from marble. If I do this, she said slowly, I have conditions. His eyebrow rose a fraction. You're negotiating? You said I was honest or foolish. Maybe I'm both. She met his gaze and didn't blink. My brother gets therapy. Real therapy for gambling. And he goes back to school. If I'm selling a year of my life, he doesn't get to waste his. Something shifted in Ji-hoon's expression. Respect, maybe, or just surprise that she'd try. Done. And I keep working. Part-time at least. I'm a nurse. I don't quit on my patients. That might complicate things. Then I don't sign. They stared at each other across the pristine white space. Jasmine's heart hammered against her ribs, but she kept her face calm. This was just like the Project Confidence, even when you're terrified. Especially when you're terrified. Finally, Ji-hoon smiled. A real smile this time, sharp and genuine. You're going to be more interesting than I thought. He pulled a pen from his pocket and set it on the contract. 2 evenings a week. You can work. But if I need you, you come. No questions. One more thing. Of course there is. You don't touch me. Not unless we're in public, and it's necessary for appearances. Ji-hoon's expression darkened slightly. I already told you. I know what you told me. I want to hear you promise it. For the first time, she saw something flicker behind his carefully controlled mask. Anger, maybe, or something hungrier. I promise, he said, his voice soft and dangerous, that I will never touch you unless absolutely necessary. Does that satisfy you? Yes. Then sign. Jasmine picked up the pen. It was heavy, expensive, probably cost more than her monthly rent. She thought about running, about grabbing Trevor and disappearing. But Ji-hoon's men would find them. Men like him always did. So she signed her name in steady, careful letters. Jasmine Blake. And then, because he insisted, she signed it again. Jasmine Kong. The wedding happened 4 days later, in a judge's chambers in downtown Manhattan. No guests. No flowers. No pretense of romance. Just Ji-hoon in another perfect suit, Jasmine in a white dress she'd bought off the rack that morning, and a tired-looking judge who clearly didn't care what kind of arrangement they had. "Do you take this man?" "I do." The judge blinked at her interruption, but continued. When it was Ji-hoon's turn, he said the words without emotion, without even looking at her, like he was signing a shipping manifest. The ring he slid onto her finger was platinum and diamonds, beautiful and cold. It fit perfectly. Of course it did. Men like Ji-hoon didn't leave things to chance. "You may kiss the bride." Ji-hoon's hand came to her waist. The first time he touched her, his palm was warm to the thin fabric of her dress, and for a moment Jasmine felt the solidity of him, the controlled strength. Then his other hand cupped her jaw, tilting her face up. "Smile," he murmured against her lips. "Like you mean it." The kiss was brief, chaste, utterly professional, but his eyes, when he pulled back, held something darker. A promise, maybe, or a warning. This is what you signed up for. They drove to his penthouse. Their penthouse now. In silence. The driver didn't speak. The city rushed past the tinted windows. Jasmine twisted the ring on her finger and tried not to think about the fact that she was legally bound to a man she'd known for less than a week. "Your things have been moved to your room," Ji-hoon said without looking at her. He was scrolling through his phone, already back to work. "Mrs. Chung will show you around. She manages the household." "Mrs. Chun." She doesn't speak English, but she understands enough. And you'll learn Korean quickly if you pay attention. The elevator, the pristine lobby, the penthouse that still felt like a museum. Mrs. Chin turned out to be a small, efficient woman in her 60s who bowed slightly when Jasmine entered and gestured for her to follow. The tour was brief. Kitchen she'd probably never use. Living spaces that looked unlived in. Ji-hoon's private office, off limits. His bedroom, door closed, also off limits. And then her room. It was beautiful. Jasmine had to admit that. Soft grays and creams. A bed that looked like a cloud. Windows overlooking Central Park. Her clothes had been unpacked and organized. Her books arranged on shelves. Even the photo of her parents had been placed on the nightstand in a new silver frame. It should have felt like a gift. Instead, it felt like a very comfortable prison cell. Mrs. Chun bowed again and left. Jasmine stood alone in her beautiful cage and tried to remember how to breathe. The first week passed in a strange haze. Ji-hoon left early each morning and returned late. Sometimes she heard him moving to the penthouse after midnight, pouring drinks, making calls in rapid Korean. But he never knocked on her door, never sought her out. It should have been a relief. Instead, it felt like waiting for a bomb to detonate. On day 8, Mrs. Chin appeared at breakfast with a tablet and a woman who introduced herself as Min SEOUL, a language tutor. Mr. Kong has arranged lessons. Min SEOUL explained in crisp English. 3 times a week. Basic Korean cultural essentials and preparation for public appearances. Jasmine looked up from her coffee. Public appearances. There's an event Friday night. A charity gala. You'll need to be ready. So it was starting. The lessons were intensive. Korean honorifics. Proper bowing. How to hold a wine glass. When to speak and when to stay silent. Min SEOUL was patient but exacting, and Jasmine threw herself into it the way she had with nursing school. If she had to play a role, she'd play it perfectly. She still worked her 2 evenings at the hospital. Ji-hoon's driver took her and picked her up without comment. Her co-workers asked about the ring, and she gave them a carefully practiced story about a whirlwind romance. They squealed and hugged her. She smiled and felt nothing. Friday arrived too quickly. The dress appeared in her room that afternoon. Midnight blue silk that draped like water, with a neckline that was sophisticated without being revealing. Shoes that cost more than a car payment. Jewelry that probably required its own insurance policy. Mrs. Chun helped her with her hair, pulling it into an elegant updo that showed off her neck and collarbones. Makeup applied with an expert hand. When Jasmine finally looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. She looked expensive, untouchable, like she belonged in Ji-hoon's world. The illusion was perfect. Ji-hoon was waiting in the living room, and when she appeared, he went very still. He was devastating in a tuxedo, the kind of handsome that felt dangerous, all sharp lines and control power. But it was the way he looked at her that made Jasmine's breath catch, like she was a puzzle he was trying to solve, or a target he'd just acquired. "You'll do," he said finally, but his voice had gone rough at the edges. "Thank you for the dress." "Don't thank me. Thank the stylist." He moved closer, and Jasmine caught the scent of his cologne. Something dark and expensive. "Tonight you stay close to me. You smile. You let me touch you when necessary. And you don't speak to anyone I don't introduce you to. Understood? I'm not stupid." No, his hand came to her lower back, possessive and warm. "You're not, but you're also not prepared for the people you're about to meet. So follow my lead and don't improvise." In the car, he briefed her on names and faces. Chaebol families, Korean business dynasties that control more money than some countries, politicians, celebrities, and underneath it all, the unspoken truth. Some of these people were criminals dressed in Armani. "Why do you need a wife for this?" Jasmine asked as they pulled up to the venue. "Really?" Ji-hoon's jaw tightened. "Because men with families look stable, trustworthy, and I'm in the process of acquiring something that requires me to look domesticated." "What are you acquiring?" "Nothing you need to worry about." The car door opened. Ji-hoon stepped out first, then offered her his hand. Camera flashes exploded like small supernovas. Jasmine took his hand and stepped into the light. The gala was held in a Fifth Avenue mansion that had been converted into an event space. Everything dripped with old money. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, art that probably belonged in the Met. Servers moved through the crowd with champagne and canapes. String quartet music drifted over conversation in 3 languages. Jasmine felt every eye on her. She was used to being noticed. A tall black woman tended to stand out in most rooms. But this was different. These looks held calculation, assessment. The women's eyes traveled over her dress, her jewelry, her face, cataloging everything. The men's gazes were more direct, curious about the woman who'd landed Kang Ji-hoon. Ji-hoon's hand stayed on her waist, a constant reminder of her role. When people approached, he introduced her simply. "My wife, Jasmine." No explanation, no story, just the fact of her existence. Most people were polite. Some were warm. A few looked at her like she was an exotic acquisition. Then a woman appeared at Ji-hoon's elbow, elegant, early 40s, wearing a dress that probably cost more than Jasmine's student loans. Her smile was all teeth and no warmth. "Ji-hoon," she said in Korean, then switched to English. "You didn't mention you got married." "It was private. Seo Jun dash." Ji-hoon's tone was cordial but cool. "May I introduce my wife, Jasmine?" "Jasmine, this is Lee Seo Jun. She manages several of the foundations hosting tonight's event." "Charmed." Seo Jun's eyes raked over Jasmine. "You're quite striking. Where did Ji-hoon find you?" The question was rude, but Jasmine kept her smile in place. "Brooklyn. I'm a nurse." "A nurse?" Seo Jun's laugh was like breaking glass. "How refreshing. Most of the women in our circle don't work." "I'm not most women." Something dangerous flickered in Seo Jun's expression. "No, I suppose you're not." Ji-hoon's hand tightened on Jasmine's waist. "If you'll excuse us, Seo Jun, I see someone I need to speak with." He steered Jasmine away before she could respond. When they were out of earshot, he leaned down, his breath warm against her ear. "That woman is dangerous. Stay away from her. She doesn't like me. She doesn't like anyone. But she especially doesn't like changes to the social order. And you," his eyes traveled over her face, "you're a very significant change." Before Jasmine could ask what that meant, a man appeared in front of them, younger than Ji-hoon, with a pretty boy face and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Hyung," he said, using Korean term for older brother. "You've been hiding." "Not hiding. Busy." Ji-hoon's entire demeanor shifted. still controlled, but now with an edge of warning. "Jasmine, this is Kong Min-jun. My cousin." Min-jun's eyes lit up when they landed on Jasmine. So it's true. Ji-hoon finally got married, and to such a beautiful woman. He took her hand and kissed it in a gesture that was just barely acceptable. "Welcome to the family. We're not as scary as we seem. Some of us are scarier," June said mildly, but his expression was deadly. Min-jun laughed. "Always so serious, Hyung. You should let your wife have some fun. Let me steal her for one dance." "No." The single word dropped like a stone. Min-jun's smile faltered. "I'm only asking for a dance." "And I'm saying no." Ji-hoon's hand moved to Jasmine's hip, pulling her closer. "My wife stays with me tonight." The possessiveness in his voice sent heat down Jasmine's spine. This wasn't part of the act. This was something rawer, more primal. She could feel the tension in Ji-hoon's body, the barely leashed aggression. Min-jun raised his hands in surrender, still smiling. "Of course, Hyung. I didn't mean to overstep." His eyes found Jasmine's. "But if you ever want to tour the family business, beautiful, I'd be happy to oblige." He disappeared into the crowd. Ji-hoon watched him go with an expression that could have frozen steel. "Your cousin seems friendly," Jasmine said carefully. "My cousin is a snake. Don't trust him." "I don't trust anyone here." Ji-hoon looked down at her, and something in his expression softened. Smart woman. The evening dragged on. More introductions. More careful conversations. Jasmine's face hurt from smiling. Her feet hurt from the heels. But she played her part, and slowly she started to understand. These people weren't just wealthy. They were powerful in ways that had nothing to do with money. And Ji-hoon moved among them like a shark among smaller fish. Respected, feared, never quite trusted. Whatever he was acquiring, whatever this marriage was really about, it was bigger than a simple business arrangement. Around 11, Ji-hoon leaned down and murmured, "We're leaving." "Thank God." His mouth quirked, almost a smile. "You did well tonight." I stood around and looked pretty. "You did more than that. You didn't flinch." Most people flinch the first time they see how we really live. In the car, Jasmine kicked off her heels and let her head fall back against the seat. She was exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with physical tiredness. "That woman, Seo-jun," she said. "What's her deal?" Ji-hoon stared out the window. "She was supposed to marry into our family. An arrangement between households. I refused. Because I don't let anyone choose my life for me." He turned to look at her. "Even when I have to marry for business, I pick the terms. I pick the person. That bothers people like Seo-jun. So I'm a fuck you to the establishment." Essentially, Jasmine laughed. She couldn't help it. The absurdity of it all, the fancy dress, the mansion, the dangerous cousin, the jilted would-be bride. She was a pawn in a game she didn't understand, playing a role in someone else's revenge plot. "Something funny?" Ji-hoon asked. "Everything. All of it." She met his eyes. "You pay my brother's debt and marry me just to piss people off?" "No," his expression darkened. "I married you because I needed a wife who wouldn't try to control me. The fact that it annoys the right people is a bonus." The car pulled up to their building. Ji-hoon got out first and offered her his hand. Jasmine took it, letting him help her from the car in her bare feet, her expensive shoes dangling from her other hand. In the elevator, he surprised her by saying, "You can sleep in tomorrow. No lessons. You've earned it." "Thanks." And Jasmine, he waited until she looked at him. "You did more than stand around and look pretty. You held your ground with people who spent their lives intimidating others. That takes strength." The elevator doors opened. Ji-hoon walked toward the side of the penthouse without another word, leaving Jasmine standing in the hallway, her heart doing strange things in her chest. It was just a compliment. Just words. But from a man like Ji-hoon, she suspected words didn't come cheap. 3 weeks into the marriage, Jasmine found the file. She hadn't been snooping. Not really. She'd been looking for aspirin in Ji-hoon's home office, her head pounding from another intensive Korean lesson. when she'd pulled open the wrong drawer. The folder was thick, labeled with her name. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside, copies of her nursing license, her college transcripts, her parents' death certificates, Trevor's psychiatric evaluation from when he was 16 after their parents died, bank records, social media screenshots going back years, photos of her leaving the hospital, getting coffee, walking through Central Park, and at the bottom, a report dated 2 months before Trevor had borrowed the money. Subject, Jasmine Blake. Recommendation, suitable for Kong Project. Strong moral compass. Deep family loyalty. No significant romantic attachments. Brother's gambling addiction provides leverage point. The room spun. Jasmine gripped the desk to stay upright. This wasn't random. Trevor hadn't stumbled into debt. He'd been targeted, pushed toward specific lenders who were connected to Ji-hoon, and she'd been the prize all along. You weren't supposed to see that. Jasmine whirled. Ji-hoon stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. You planned this. Her voice cracked. All of it. You researched me. You knew about Trevor's problems. You, she couldn't finish. Couldn't breathe. I needed a wife with specific qualities. Ji-hoon moved into the room slowly, like approaching a wounded animal. I found you. By destroying my brother? Your brother destroyed himself. I just accelerated the timeline. Jasmine grabbed the folder and hurled it at him. Papers exploded through the air. Ji-hoon didn't flinch. You made me think I had a choice. The words ripped out of her. You made me think I was saving him. You are saving him. I kept my word. He's in therapy. Back in school, the debt is gone. Because you created the debt. You manipulated everything. Tears burned her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. What kind of monster are you? Ji-hoon's jaw tightened. The kind who gets what he wants. Why? Jasmine moved closer, fury overriding fear. Why me? There are thousands of women who would have married you willingly. Why go through all this? Because those women would have expected something. His voice was cold, controlled, but something raged beneath the surface. Love, affection, access to my life. You were supposed to hate me. You were supposed to do your time and leave. Clean. Simple. Then why do you look at me like... She stopped, shook her head. Forget it. Like what? He stepped closer, finished the sentence. Like you want something more than an arrangement. The words hung between them. Ji-hoon's eyes darkened, and for a moment, Jasmine saw past the ice to whatever burned underneath. Maybe, he said softly, dangerously, I miscalculated. Before she could respond, his phone buzzed. He pulled it out, glanced at the screen, and his entire demeanor changed. The heat vanished, replaced by cold focus. Get dressed. Something formal. We have a dinner. I'm not going anywhere with you. Yes, you are. He grabbed her wrist, not hard, but firm. Because if you don't, people will ask questions. And if people start digging into our marriage, they'll find your brother. And my enemies don't leave loose ends alive. Jasmine stared at him. You're threatening Trevor? I'm stating facts. You signed a contract. You made a deal. Now honor it. He released her and walked out. Jasmine stood alone in his office, surrounded by scattered papers documenting the careful destruction of her free will, and realized she'd never really had a choice at all. The dinner was at an exclusive Korean restaurant in Koreatown. Private room, low lighting, traditional floor seating. Jasmine wore black, because if she was going to sit through an evening with Ji-hoon after learning the truth, she at least looked like she was in mourning for her dignity. The guests were already there when they arrived. 3 middle-aged Korean men in expensive suits, their expressions carefully neutral. And at the head of the table, an older man with silver hair and eyes like chips of obsidian. AMBW, Ji-hoon said, bowing slightly. Father. Jasmine's stomach dropped. No one had mentioned she'd be meeting Ji-hoon's father tonight. Kang Dae-young was everything Ji-hoon will become in 20 years. Refined, powerful, utterly ruthless. He studied Jasmine the way a jeweler might study a questionable diamond. So this is your wife. His English was accented but perfect. Sit. It wasn't an invitation. Jasmine sat. Ji-hoon settled beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched. His hand found hers under the table and squeezed once. Warning or reassurance? She couldn't tell. My son tells me you're a nurse, Dae-young continued. An unusual choice for a daughter-in-law. I'm an unusual choice in several ways, Jasmine replied, keeping her voice even. One of the other men snorted. Dae-young's expression didn't change. Americans, he said, always so direct. In Korea, we value subtlety. In America, we value honesty. Jasmine met his gaze. Sir, the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Ji-hoon's hand tightened on hers, but Dae-young surprised her by smiling. I see why you chose her, Ji-hoon. She has spine. He gestured to the servers waiting by the door. Let's eat. The meal was a carefully choreographed performance. Courses appeared and disappeared. Conversation flowed in Korean and English, discussions of business that Jasmine didn't understand and probably wasn't meant to. She ate. She smiled when appropriate. She played the role. But all the while, Dae-young watched her with those cold, calculating eyes. Finally, over dessert, he addressed her directly. My son's previous relationships have been disappointing. Women who wanted his money or his name. You, I'm told, wanted neither. I wanted my brother safe. Yes, the gambling debt. Dae-young nodded slowly. Family loyalty is important in our culture. You sacrifice yourself for your brother. That shows proper values. Jasmine felt Ji-hoon tense beside her. Tell me, Dae-young continued, what do you know about your husband's business? Very little. And what do you think he does? This was a test. Every word a potential trap. Jasmine chose carefully. I think he does what's necessary to maintain power in a world that doesn't give power easily. And I think the less I know about the details, the safer everyone stays. Silence. Then Dae-young laughed. A real laugh that transformed his face from stone to something almost human. Smart and loyal. You chose better than I expected, Ji-hoon. He raised his glass. To your marriage. May it be long and prosperous. Everyone drank. Jasmine forced the wine down and tried to ignore the sick feeling in her stomach. Later, in the car, Ji-hoon finally spoke. You didn't have to defend me to him. I wasn't defending you. I was protecting myself. If your father thinks I'm a problem, what happens to me? Nothing. You're my wife. You're untouchable. Like I was untouchable when you researched my entire life and manipulated me into this marriage? Ji-hoon's jaw clenched. I did what I had to do. For what? What's so important that you needed to destroy people's lives for it? I'm not destroying your life. I gave you a way out of poverty. Safety for your brother. You gave me a cage. A beautiful, expensive cage, but still a cage. Jasmine turned to face him. Tell me the truth. What are you really doing? What's the Kong project? Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe, that she'd read the file that carefully. You don't want to know. Yes, I do. Because if I'm going to be part of this, I deserve to know what this is. Ji-hoon stared at her for a long moment. Then he leaned forward and told the driver something in Korean. The driver nodded and changed direction. Where are we going? Jasmine asked. Somewhere you can understand. The building was in Queens, an industrial district, surrounded by warehouses and empty lots. No signage, no identifying features. Just concrete and steel and security cameras on every corner. Ji-hoon led her inside, nodded to guards who appeared from nowhere, took her down an elevator that descended far longer than seemed reasonable. The space below was huge, a basement converted into offices, server rooms, and meeting areas. People worked at computers, moved through hallways with purpose. Everything was clean, organized, efficient, and everyone carried guns. This is one of 3 operation centers, Ji-hoon explained, walking her through the space. We provide services, protection, information, resources. People come to us when they can't go to the police or don't trust the government. You run a criminal organization. I run a business that operates outside traditional systems. There's a difference. Is there? Jasmine stopped walking. You manipulated my brother into debt. You researched me without consent. You've trapped me in a marriage I didn't want. Those aren't the actions of a good person. Ji-hoon, I never claimed to be good. He moved closer, and in the dim lighting, his face looked harder, older. I claim to be effective. And to be effective in this world, you make hard choices. You use whatever leverage is available. You don't apologize. Is that what your father taught you? My father taught me to survive. Ji-hoon's voice went flat. He taught me that showing weakness gets you killed, and that in our world, you're either predator or prey. I chose predator. And I'm what? Your hunting trophy. You're my wife. There's a difference. Is there? Jasmine threw his own words back at him. Because from where I'm standing, you acquire me the same way you'd acquire property. June grabbed her arm, not rough, but firm enough to stop her from walking away. You want the truth? Fine. Here it is. My father is dying. Cancer, stage 4. He has maybe 6 months. And when he dies, there are 3 factions in our organization that will try to take control. My cousin Min June leads one of them. The pretty one from the gala? The dangerous one. He wants power, and he'll do anything to get it, including destabilize everything my father built. Ji-hoon released her arm but didn't step back. A married man looks stable, legitimate, like he has something to lose. It makes the others think twice about challenging me. So I'm your shield. You're my advantage. His eyes burned into hers. And yes, I manipulated you to get it. I'm not sorry. I'd do it again. But that doesn't mean... He stopped, turned away. Doesn't mean what? Nothing. Forget it. But Jasmine moved around him, forcing him to look at her. Doesn't mean what, Ji-hoon? It doesn't mean I expected to actually. He bit off the words. Shook his head. You were supposed to be convenient. A tool. But you keep surprising me. The way you held your ground with C.O. June. How you spoke to my father. The way you look at me like I'm not terrifying. You are terrifying. But you're not afraid of me. Everyone else is afraid of me. Even my own family. But you... His hand came up to her face, fingers ghosting along her jawline. You fight me. Challenge me. You make me want. Footsteps echoed down the hallway. June stepped back immediately, and a man appeared, one of the guards from earlier. He spoke rapidly in Korean. Ji-hoon's entire body went rigid. What is it? Jasmine asked. We need to leave. Now. He grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the elevator. Behind them, alarms started blaring. Red lights flashed. People ran through the hallways with weapons drawn. Ji-hoon, what's happening? Someone attacked one of our other sites. Min June's people. They reached the elevator. Ji-hoon jabbed the button repeatedly. They're making their move earlier than expected. Your father's not even dead yet. No, but someone leaked that his condition is worse than we've been saying. Now everyone thinks they can grab power while things are unstable. The elevator doors opened. They stepped in. As the door started to close, Jasmine heard shouting, then gunfire. The penthouse was dark when they arrived. Ji-hoon went straight to his office, barking orders in Korean into his phone. Jasmine stood in the living room, her ears still ringing from the gunfire she'd heard in the basement. She'd married into a war. Mrs. Shin appeared with tea, her face serene despite the chaos. Jasmine took it gratefully, her hands shaking. Drink. Mrs. Chun said in careful English. Good for shock. Jasmine drank. The tea was bitter but warm. When she looked up, Ji-hoon was standing in the doorway to his office, watching her. Pack a bag, he said. Enough for 3 days. We're leaving the city. Where are we going? Somewhere safer while I deal with this. My family has a compound upstate. Gated, guarded, 24-hour security. I'm not running. You're not running. You're being protected. There's a difference. Stop telling me there's a difference when we both know there isn't. Jasmine slammed the teacup down. You keep saying things are one way when they're really another. You say I'm your wife, but I'm a pawn. You say you're protecting me, but you're controlling me. You say, I'm trying to keep you alive. Ji-hoon's control finally cracked. Do you understand what happens if Min June gets his hands on you? You're my biggest vulnerability now. He'll use you to hurt me, and he won't be gentle about it. Then divorce me. Let me go. I've seen your operation. I know your secrets. Just let me walk away. I can't. Why not? Because he stopped, ran a hand through his hair in the first truly agitated gesture she'd ever seen from him. Because the contract matters. Because if I back down now, I look weak. Because if you disappear, questions get asked. Those are all lies. Then what's the truth? Ji-hoon crossed the room in 3 strides. Before Jasmine could process it, his hands were on her face, tilting her head up. The truth is I can't let you go because somewhere in the last 3 weeks, you stopped being a convenience and started being something else. His voice was raw. The truth is I think about you constantly. What you're doing, if you're safe, whether you'll still be here when I get home. The truth is when that snake Min-jun looked at you, I wanted to break every bone in his face. Ji-hoon, the truth is I didn't expect to want you. Not like this. Not in ways that have nothing to do with the arrangement. His thumb traced her lower lip. And now I'm in the middle of a war, and all I can think about is getting you somewhere safe because the idea of anyone hurting you makes me... He kissed her. It wasn't like the chase kiss at their wedding. This was desperate, hungry, a drowning man gasping for air. His hand slid into her hair, tilting her head for better access. And Jasmine, God help her, kissed him back. Her hands fisted in his shirt. She should push him away. Should remember what he'd done. But his mouth was hot and demanding, and for the first time since signing that contract, she felt something other than trapped. She felt wanted. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ji-hoon rested his forehead against hers. We still have to leave, he whispered. I know. And this doesn't change the situation. I know that too. But I'm not letting you go. Not now. Maybe not ever. His eyes met hers, and they were full of dark promise. I'm a selfish bastard, Jasmine. I take what I want, and I don't apologize. And I want you. You trapped me into this. I did. And I'd do it again. Because the alternative is a world where I never met you, and I can't. He pulled back, his mask sliding back into place. Pack your bag. We leave in 20 minutes. He walked away before she could respond. Jasmine stood alone in the living room, her lips still burning from his kiss, her heart hammering against her ribs. She was in love with a monster. Or maybe worse. She was in love with a man who might be capable of something other than monstrosity if someone gave him the chance. The compound was 2 hours north of the city, hidden in the woods like something from a Gothic novel. High walls, armed guards, a main house that looked like it belonged to old Korean aristocracy transported to upstate New York. Ji-hoon's hand stayed on her lower back as they walked inside. More guards, more Korean spoken too quickly for her to follow. And in the main sitting room, waiting with a glass of whiskey, a byoji, Ji-hoon said, surprise clear in his voice. Kang Dae-young looked thinner than he had at dinner, his skin almost gray, but his eyes were still sharp as broken glass. You think I wouldn't come when my empire is under attack? He gestured to the seat across from him. Sit, both of you. We have much to discuss. They sat. Ji-hoon's hand found Jasmine's, squeezing once. She squeezed back, and something passed between them. An acknowledgement, maybe even trust. Min-jun is making his move, Dae-young said without preamble. He's convinced 3 of the smaller families to support him. He's claiming you're unfit to lead, Ji-hoon. Says your American marriage proves you've gone soft. I'm not soft. No, but you are compromised. Dae-young's gaze shifted to Jasmine. She's your weakness. Everyone can see it. Then everyone is wrong. Are they? Dae-young leaned forward. Because from what I hear, you've been distracted, missing meetings, making decisions based on her schedule. That's not the son I raised. Your son is trying to build something different than what you built. Ji-hoon's voice was steady, but Jasmine felt the tension in his body, something that doesn't require destroying innocence. There are no innocents in our world. She is... The words hung in the air. Dae-young's eyebrows rose. You care about her. Yes. More than the organization? Ji-hoon hesitated. In that pause, Jasmine saw the truth. He did care about her. Maybe more than was wise. Maybe more than he wanted to admit. I care about both, he finally said. And I can protect both. No! Dae-young set down his glass with a sharp click. You can't. Min-jun knows about her brother. He's already sent people to the university. If you don't act soon, he'll use the boy as leverage. Jasmine's blood turned to ice. Trevor? He's safe for now, Ji-hoon said quickly. I have people watching him. But Min-jun is escalating. Then let me go. Jasmine pulled her hand from Ji-hoon's. Divorce me. Make it look like it fell apart. Take away his leverage. He'll kill you the moment the divorce is filed. Ji-hoon's voice was flat. You know too much. You've seen too much. Then what's the alternative? I stay trapped while you and your cousin play power games. The alternative, Dae-young said softly, is you stop thinking like prey and start thinking like a predator. You're a con now, girl. Act like it. Jasmine turned to the old man. What does that mean? It means Min-jun expects you to be weak. Expects Ji-hoon to hide you away and protect you. So do the opposite. Dae-young's smile was sharp as a blade. Be visible. Be strong. Show the families that Ji-hoon's marriage didn't make him weak. It made him more dangerous. You want me to be bait. I want you to be a queen. Dae-young stood, his movements careful but still commanding. There's a gathering tomorrow night. All the families. Min-jun will be there. He'll try to humiliate Ji-hoon publicly. So you walk in on Ji-hoon's arm, and you show them all that you're not some delicate thing to be protected. You're a weapon. I'm a nurse. You're whatever you choose to be. He looked at Ji-hoon. You married her. Now trust her to fight beside you. Dae-young left the room. In the silence that followed, Jasmine turned to Ji-hoon. He's right, you know. About what? I'm tired of being protected. I'm tired of being the weakness everyone targets. She stood, moved to the window overlooking the compound. You manipulated me into this marriage. Fine, but I'm here now, and I'm not going to be useless. You're not. Don't. She held up a hand. Don't tell me what I am or aren't. Just tell me what tomorrow night is really about. Ji-hoon was quiet for a long moment. Then, it's a formal challenge. Min-jun will call for a vote among the families. He'll present his case for why he should lead instead of me. If he gets enough support, there will be violence. A war. Yes. And if you win the vote, he'll still try to kill me, but it will be harder for him to get support. Ji-hoon moved behind her, close enough that she could feel his heat. Jasmine, if you walk into that room tomorrow, you can't walk back out. Not unchanged. This life, my life, it marks people. I'm already marked. The moment I signed that contract, I became part of your world. She turned to face him. So stop trying to protect me from something I'm already in. Let me help. How? Teach me about your world, your customs, what tomorrow night really means. And then let me stand beside you, not behind you, and face it together. Ji-hoon stared at her, and slowly, something like wonder crossed his face. You're extraordinary, he said softly. You know that. I'm stubborn. That too. He cupped her face in his hands. If we do this, if I let you stand with me tomorrow, it means you're choosing this. Choosing me. Fully. No more pretending it's just an arrangement. Is that what you want? What I want, June said, his voice rough with emotion, is you. Safe, happy, and mine. In that order. Jasmine leaned into his touch. Then teach me how to survive your world. And maybe, she paused, maybe I'll teach you how to live in mine. He kissed her then, soft and fierce and full of promise. And for the first time since this whole thing started, Jasmine felt like she was making a choice that was truly her own. The next 18 hours were a crash course in survival. Ji-hoon's people taught her things the language tutor had never mentioned. How to read body language in negotiations. Which families were loyal, which were opportunistic. The difference between an insult and a challenge. The proper way to hold power in a room without saying a word. But it was Ji-hoon himself who gave her the most important lesson. Tomorrow night, Min-jun will try to provoke me, he said. They were in his room, their first time in his private space. It was surprisingly sparse. Clean lines, minimal decoration. Only a photo on the nightstand of a younger Ji-hoon with a woman who must have been his mother, both smiling. He'll insult you. He'll question your worth. He'll make it look like I made a mistake marrying you. And I'm supposed to just take it? No. Ji-hoon's smile was dangerous. You're supposed to destroy him with words. Make him look small. Petty. Show the families that you're not intimidated. What if I'm intimidated? Then fake it. You're a nurse. You've dealt with life and death. This is just theater with higher stakes. Just theater, Jasmine repeated. Right. Ji-hoon pulled her close, his hands warm on her waist. I'll be right there. And if things go wrong, I'll get you out. I promise. What if things go right? Then we win, and you become untouchable. His eyes searched hers. Are you sure about this? Jasmine thought about her parents, about Trevor, about every choice that had led to this moment. She thought about Ji-hoon's kiss, his confession, the way he looked at her like she was worth protecting and worth respecting. I'm sure. The gathering was held in a mansion in Westchester. Old money, old power. The kind of place where history happened in back rooms while champagne flowed in the front. Jasmine wore red, a color Ji-hoon's stylist said meant power and good fortune in Korean culture. The dress was traditional in cut but modern in execution, fitted perfectly to her body. Her hair was down in natural curls, and she wore minimal jewelry except for her wedding ring. You look like war, Ji-hoon said when he saw her. Is that a compliment? The highest one I can give. In the car, he briefed her one final time. Stay calm. Stay proud. And remember, you're not asking for their acceptance. You're demanding their respect. The mansion's ballroom was filled with people when they entered. Conversation stopped. Heads turned. And Jasmine felt the weight of dozens of calculating gazes land on her like physical pressure. She lifted her chin and walked forward on Ji-hoon's arm. Dae-young was already there, seated in a position of honor despite his illness. He nodded when he saw them. Approval. And then Min-jun appeared. He was even prettier up close, with a smile that would have been charming if not for the viciousness in his eyes. He bowed to Ji-hoon, too shallow to be respectful, deep enough to maintain propriety. Hyung, so glad you could make it. His eyes raked over Jasmine. And you brought your wife. Jasmine, Ji-hoon said coldly. Her name is Jasmine. Of course. Forgive me. Min-jun turned to her. You're looking well. I hope married life is treating you kindly. It's treating me exactly as expected, Jasmine replied smoothly. She'd practiced this, kept her voice level, her expression calm. And you? I heard you've been busy lately. Business keeps me occupied. Unlike some people, I don't let personal attachments distract me from duty. The insult was clear. Ji-hoon's hand tightened on her waist, but Jasmine spoke before he could. How fascinating. I've always found that people who claim to have no attachments are usually just afraid of having something worth protecting. But perhaps that's just a cultural difference. Several people nearby made small sound of surprise. Min-jun's smile froze. Careful, Mrs. Kong. You're new to our world. You don't want to make enemies before you understand the rules. I understand the rules perfectly. Jasmine stepped closer to him, lowering her voice so only Min-jun and Ji-hoon could hear. Rule 1, power respects power. Rule 2, weakness is death. And Rule 3, she smiled, never underestimate the woman who has nothing left to lose. She stepped back. Min-jun's face had gone from pretty to ugly with barely suppressed rage. We'll see how brave you are when. When what? Ji-hoon's voice cut through like a blade. Finish that sentence, cousin. Please. The room had gone completely silent. Everyone watching. Waiting. Min-jun's eyes darted around, realizing he'd been baited into revealing his hand too early. He bowed stiffly and walked away. Dae-young's laugh echoed through the ballroom. The formal challenge came an hour later. The families gathered in a private room. Jasmine wasn't allowed inside. This was business between the men. So she waited in an anteroom with the wives and daughters, all of them dressed in expensive clothes and false smiles. CO June was there, looking at Jasmine with barely concealed hatred. Quite the performance earlier, she said. Bold, perhaps too bold. Perhaps. Jasmine sipped her champagne. But I don't believe in doing things halfway. Min June won't forget the insult. Good. I don't want him to. CO June leaned closer. You think you're clever, but you're playing a game you don't understand. Jihoon may want you now, but men like him get bored easily. And when he's done with you, when he's done with me, I'll still be standing. Can you say the same? The other woman's eyes flashed. But before she could respond, shouting erupted from the room where the men were meeting. Then gunfire. The anteroom exploded into chaos. Women screaming, guards running, doors slamming. Jasmine's nurse training kicked, and immediately she grabbed the nearest woman, someone's daughter, barely 20, and pulled her down behind a table. Stay low, she ordered. Don't move until I say. More gunfire. Closer now. Then the door burst open, and Jihoon appeared, his suit jacket torn, blood on his face. Jasmine. She ran to him. Are you hurt? Not my blood. Min June's people attacked the meeting. We need to go. Now. He grabbed her hand and pulled her toward a service exit. Behind them, Jasmine could hear fighting. Shouts in Korean, more gunshots, something that sounded like breaking glass. They burst into a service corridor. Jihoon's men were already there, forming a protective barrier. They moved as a unit down the hallway, upstairs toward what looked like a kitchen. Then Min June appeared at the other end of the corridor. He had a gun. Brother, he shouted, did you really think you could humiliate me in front of the families? The families just saw you break every rule we have. Jihoon shot back. Attacking during a formal gathering? You've destroyed yourself. I've destroyed you. You and your foreign whore. Jihoon moved so fast Jasmine barely saw it. One moment he was beside her. The next he had Min June against the wall. Forearm pressed his throat. Call her that again. Jihoon said softly, and I'll kill you myself. You don't have the balls. The gunshot was deafening. Jasmine watched in horror as Min June's eyes widened. Blood bloomed across his chest. He slid down the wall, leaving a red streak. Jihoon still held the gun. His hand was steady. I warned you, he said. Then he turned to Jasmine, and his eyes were empty, cold. The man she'd kissed, the man who'd held her face so gently. He was gone. This was the predator, the killer. We need to leave, he said. Now. The compound was on lockdown when they returned. Dae-young sat in the main room, looking older and sicker than before. He said nothing when Jihoon entered, just looked at his son with an expression Jasmine couldn't read. It's done, Jihoon said. I know. The families have already called. Min June's supporters had withdrawn their challenge. Dae-young coughed into a handkerchief. You did what was necessary. I killed my cousin. You killed a traitor. The old man's voice was firm. Don't confuse the two. Jihoon said nothing, just walked past his father, through the house, out onto a back terrace that overlooked the woods. Jasmine followed. She found him at the railing, staring into the darkness. His jacket was gone, his shirt still stained with blood. In the moonlight, he looked exhausted. Human, you should go inside, he said without turning. It's cold. So are you? Yes. His laugh was bitter. That's what I am. Cold, violent, everything you hate. Jasmine moved to stand beside him. I don't hate you. You should. You saw what I'm capable of. What I did. You protected yourself. You protected me. You protected your family's business. She touched his hand. Min June would have killed us both if given a chance. That doesn't make it right. No, but it makes a human. Jasmine turned to face him fully. You want to know what I saw tonight? I saw a man trying to build something better than what his father built, trying to be ruthless enough to survive, but decent enough to have limits. And when someone crossed those limits, you made a choice. An easy choice. Nothing about tonight was easy. She took his face in her hands, forcing him to look at her. And if you think I'm going to run away screaming because you're complicated and dangerous and occasionally violent, then you don't know me at all. Why? Ji-hoon's voice cracked. Why don't you hate me? Because somewhere between the manipulation and the marriage and the murder, I fell in love with you, and I'm choosing to stay. The words hung between them. Ji-hoon stared at her like she'd spoken a language he didn't understand. You can't love me. I trapped you. You did, and I'm still furious about it. But that doesn't change what I feel. Jasmine smiled. I'm a nurse, Ji-hoon. I see people at their worst and still find reasons to care. You think a little criminal empire is going to scare me off. It should. Well, it doesn't. So you're stuck with me. She pulled him closer. Unless you want out. Is that it? You wanted me as a shield, and now that I'm willing to be more, you're scared? Yes, he admitted. Terrified. Because if something happens to you, if someone hurts you because of me, then we deal with it together. That's what marriage means. Real marriage, not whatever contract we signed. Ji-hoon pulled her into his arms, burying his face in her hair. She felt him shake, whether from cold or emotion. She couldn't tell. Maybe both. I don't deserve you, he whispered. Probably not, but you're stuck with me anyway. They stood like that for a long time, holding each other under the stars while inside. Ji-hoon's father made calls that would reshape the power structure of his organization, while guards patrolled the grounds, while blood dried on expensive clothes. And when Ji-hoon finally pulled back, his eyes were clear. The contract, he said. The original arrangement. I'm tearing it up. What? You're right. What we have now isn't what I forced you into. So I'm giving you a real choice. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the folded papers. The marriage contract. Bloodstained now. Walk away. I'll protect you and Trevor regardless. Or stay. Knowing everything you know. Knowing what I am and what I've done. But if you stay, it's because you choose to. Not because I trapped you. Jasmine looked at the contract. Thought about the woman she'd been 3 weeks ago, standing in her tiny apartment, holding an envelope she didn't want to open. Then she took the papers and tore them in half. I'm not going anywhere, she said, but I have conditions. Ji-hoon's mouth quirked. Of course you do. No more secrets. No more manipulation. If we're doing this, we're doing it as equals. Agreed. And Trevor gets real protection. Not just guards. Real safety. Already arranged. And you, she poked his chest, you don't get to make decisions about my safety without talking to me first. I'm not a porcelain doll. Noted. And he kissed her, soft and deep and full of promise. When they finally broke apart, Jasmine was smiling. You're not going to let me finish my list, are you? Later. Right now, I want to take my wife to bed. Our bed. His eyes darkened with heat. Unless you have objections? No objections. But Ji-hoon. Yes. I'm still mad about the manipulation. I know. And you're going to spend a long time making it up to me. His smile was pure sin. I'm counting on it. 3 months later, Jasmine stood in the same ballroom where Min-jun had challenged Ji-hoon. The families had gathered again, but this time for celebration. Dae-young's formal retirement, Ji-hoon's official ascension to head of the organization, and Jasmine's acceptance as his true partner. She wore traditional Korean hanbok this time, modified to fit her curves, in deep burgundy and gold. Her Korean was better, not perfect, but improving. And when she entered the room on Ji-hoon's arm, no one looked at her with calculation anymore. They looked at her with respect. Or fear. Sometimes both. Ready? Ji-hoon murmured as they approached his father. Always. Dae-young sat in a chair that looked like a throne, thin and pale, but still commanding. He smiled when he saw them. My son, he said in Korean, and his fierce wife. You've done well. We've done well, Ji-hoon corrected. This is her victory, too. Yes. Dae-young's eyes found Jasmine as, I misjudged you, daughter. I thought you were a tool. Instead, you're a weapon. I'm a woman, Jasmine replied in careful Korean, who protects what's hers. The old man laughed, then coughed, but his eyes were warm. The ceremony was long, formal, Full of rituals, Jasmine was still learning. But when it ended, Ji-hoon was officially the head of the Kong family, and she was officially recognized as his equal partner, not just his wife, his partner. Later, at the reception, Seo-jun approached. She looked older somehow, diminished. "I underestimated you," she said simply. "Most people do. Will you accept my apology?" Jasmine studied her, saw genuine regret in the woman's eyes. "I'll accept your respect. The apology can come later when it's earned." Seo-jun bowed deeply and walked away. Trevor appeared next, clean, sober, thriving. He'd gained weight, lost a haunted look. Therapy and safety had transformed him. "Sis," he said, pulling her into a hug, "you look like a queen. I feel like an imposter." "You're not. You're the strongest person I know." He pulled back, tears in his eyes. "I'm sorry. For everything. For putting you in this position." "You gave me a gift," Jasmine interrupted. "A really messed up, complicated gift. But still." She glanced at Ji-hoon across the room. "I wouldn't change it. Even knowing what you know now. Especially knowing what I know now." Ji-hoon found her on the terrace later, after most of the guests had left. The same terrace where she'd told him she loved him. "You've been quiet," he said, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Just thinking. About how I almost ran. That first week, I thought about just grabbing Trevor and disappearing." She leaned back against him. "If I had, I never would have known." "Known what?" "That monsters can be human. That humans can be monstrous. And that love doesn't require perfection. It requires choice." Ji-hoon turned her in his arms. "I'm still going to make mistakes. I'm still going to be ruthless sometimes. Cold. I know. And you're still going to call me on it. Challenge me. Make me crazy. Absolutely. Good." He kissed her forehead. "Because I don't want a perfect marriage. I just want a real one. Then, that's what we'll build." They stood together as the sun set over the compound, over the city beyond, over the complicated, dangerous, beautiful life they'd chosen. And when Ji-hoon finally led her inside, to the bedroom they now shared without hesitation or contract, Jasmine felt something she hadn't felt in months. Free. Not because she'd escaped her cage, but because she'd learned that freedom wasn't about walls or contracts or carefully managed arrangements. Freedom was choosing who you loved and who you fought for, even when, especially when, the choice was hard. 6 months later, Jasmine delivered twins at the same hospital where she'd once worked. A boy and a girl. Half Korean, half Jamaican. Born into a world of danger and privilege, love and violence. Ji-hoon held his daughter and looked at Jasmine with something like wonder. "What do we name them?" he asked. "Hope," Jasmine said, touching her daughter's tiny hand. "And courage. Unusual names. We're an unusual family." Ji-hoon smiled. "Yes, we are." And as he bent to kiss his wife, surrounded by the chaos of new parenthood and the weight of his empire, Kang Ji-hoon realized something he'd never expected. He was happy. Truly, completely, impossibly happy. Because sometimes the best things in life come from the worst beginnings. Sometimes love grows in darkness. And sometimes the woman who was supposed to be your shield becomes your salvation. Thank you for watching this dark romance that proves love isn't about perfection. It's about choice. What did you think of Jasmine and Ji-hoon's journey? Would you have made the same choices? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that push boundaries and explore the complicated nature of love, power, and redemption. Until next time, stay dangerous.